Yeah. All right. So let me get your opinion on this one. This is pretty interesting. So, um, somebody wrote, or like somebody suggested, and I was like, that's a true statement. There has been no revolution without bloodshed. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You would say that's true, right? Can you
Uh,
think of an example of where that doesn't apply?
when do you mean by what do you mean by revolution? Like a change
Like
of.
a changing of the guards. Like this country was ruled by this country, and now it's trying to be freed. There's
You
no like,
see,
you know.
would you consider Gandhi's movement a revolution?
That is, you're so funny. That's exactly what I said. So I was like, that's a great line. Like, you know, that's so true. And then I was like walking away. I was like, Gandhi. So I ran back and I was like, no, Gandhi. But I actually don't know I was like, I didn't read enough of the
Well,
history
he
of
didn't.
Gandhi.
The main thing of his movement was nonviolence, right?
Okay,
There
okay,
was
check this out.
violence, but he never
Yeah.
reciprocated the
But
violence.
right. Okay, okay. So I was like, I haven't read enough into the history of Gandhi in order to state that there was no violence associated with that thing, that revolution, like the freedom of
But there was
India
two
and
things
Britain.
going on. There was his movement. There was also other people that were also
Okay.
on the violent side as well. There's two movements
Yeah.
going on.
Okay, bro. So I was schooled on this. I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. So I was like, okay, you win. Like there is actually no revolution without violence. So I like asked. I was like, I didn't read enough into this. So just like
Mm-hmm.
school me, dude. Is there violence here? And the person was like, actually, if you read into the history of that movement, it's really interesting because it started with violence. Gandhi came up, but then at that time, it kind of worked out perfectly where the British were like, this is too much of our like resources. So when they left, it just timed nicely with Gandhi's movement. So it wasn't necessarily Gandhi. Gandhi was an element, but it wasn't just Gandhi revolting against the British. There were so many other things that they were fighting against. They're like, this is just not worth our time.
Yeah, it just
You
all
know?
worked together at the same time. But I feel like it was
Yeah.
one of the bigger.
No, but it was the one of the most publicized ones. So we say it's bigger, but like how effective was it in the actual freedom of India from Britain?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, there it is again. It's marketing. You know, we were like, yeah, Gandhi's nonviolent movement got them. It's like, actually, if you read into the history of it, there was so many other violent movements going on. Gandhi was just one
But
movement.
that was used also with the African Americans too, right?
Wait,
And
what do you mean?
they're getting the right to vote, getting like equal rights and stuff. They were
Wait,
using.
like nonviolence?
Yeah, that was Martin Luther King.
In America?
Yeah.
Okay, but you know who else was at the same time as Martin Luther King?
Mm-hmm.
The who's I don't even know. I said it.
Malcolm X.
Thank you. He was violent.
But he
He was
changed too,
using
though. He
violent means.
changed and.
Totally. Prison, right? He became like Muslim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you were saying? Yeah, but if you watch like the Black Panther movement, right? It was like going against your oppressors. It wasn't like let me be hit by you, you know? MLK was one piece in that puzzle. JFK was also a piece in that puzzle, you know? Martin Luther, what was it? Martin Luther? No. Who's the other guy?
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X was another piece in that puzzle, you know? And it's like we try and glorify this one thing as being the main
Sure.
thing,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah, I
like,
see
no,
what
look
you're
at all the
saying.
other elements,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
they
So
all played
it
their
takes,
role. Yeah, they all played part,
for sure,
including
right? In the revolution, in the total revolution. So it's like we can't say that one thing was the result of another. It's like it took all of these in unison to make this revolution happen.
I understand they all
And
took.
within all
They
of
all
these,
were there in unison, but I don't. I wonder. I think that maybe MLK was the more popular one with the populace.
sure. But all I'm
Right.
saying is no revolution without bloodshed, without violence, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I went straight to Gandhi too, but then when the person said like, no, there's a lot of other things going on, blah blah blah, and like it just timed correctly, I was like, oh, how many other times has that happened that we think that we're like, because everyone,
So then you can't. It's not
the reason,
all. But I wouldn't
yeah,
say that it's. Then it's not just. It's not just bloodshed. Then it's both.
violence.
They're both, or both in being involved. Then.
It's just no, right. But what they were trying, no, all right. So the reason why I said this, the reason why this came up, is because we have this ideology in our minds that we can stop violence and oppression through peace. And it's like, no, always the one with the bigger stick wins.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, like you can't change a system unless you have a bigger stick to break that system and then bring your own system in.
Yeah.
You know, right? Like I've never like throughout history, it's always the biggest stick wins. But why do we glorify passive movements? It's impossible. Like you can't like the Vietnam War. You know, like, oh, we're just going to protest. The hippies is what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody thinks that like love and peace can outshine everything, but it's like it's really not possible. Like I don't think. Prove me wrong.
I don't think it's necessarily only that. I feel like maybe both play in the part is what we're saying. What I'm saying.
No, no, right,
Right?
no, but
there's a
right,
reason
no,
to
no.
bring up these are the things that will show the light of what's going on.
Yeah,
But there's always going to be a faction of people that are going to fight against it too, because that's just the normal part of the natural reaction too, right?
right. No, but what I'm saying is like the ideology is everyone thinks that you can do this peacefully. Like, oh, we don't actually
Right,
need
like
to
hundred
raise up.
percent peacefully. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like no,
Mm-hmm.
it's impossible. Even like the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, we're just protesting, but there was still violence associated with that thing. Like there were like automatically once you've decided to protest, there's some. I mean, like, what do even the protests do? You know, a protest is really just like I don't like this. But unless you take up arms, you really can't change it. Unless you vote, I guess, but you're still voting within the system that they've created. So if they say like no black people can vote, then what? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
Like,
that was the protest before, right? Now, black people can't vote, right?
right. No, totally. But it wasn't just because of MLK's like, you know, all men are created equal. Like there was
Yeah,
also
sometimes
the
it's like
Black
it's the
Panthers. There was
shift in
also the
society. Yeah, there's a societal shift, and the law hasn't reached where society is at in a way.
yeah, totally. Because like laws are just collective agreements
Mm-hmm.
of humans.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah, yeah. I just found that really interesting because with what's going on in the world, it's like maybe this is just a necessary evil that we have to accept, you know, as human beings. Which brings me to my real question of this thing, but I'm not going to title it this because this will like freak a lot of people out. What is your assessment of us entering into a third world war? A
Like
lot of people are freaking out about it, and I'm like, I don't know.
I don't think.
I don't. That's what I'm saying too. I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
But nobody thought that in World War One. World War One, do you like? It was just a catalyst. World War One was all right. World War Two was obvious. It's like against Hitler. You know, us versus
That's World War
them.
Two, though.
Totally. It's World War Two.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
World War One
But it
was
didn't happen.
accidental.
Right. I don't know about World. I don't remember World War One. How it exactly.
World War One started with Franz Ferdinand. He got assassinated, and they said it was like a powder keg. Basically, the whole world was ready to explode, right, into a war with each other, right? But it didn't happen until that guy got assassinated, and then that triggered this, triggered that, you know, right? Whereas World War Two is like it's pretty obvious, like who we're fighting against.
Yeah, but it took
know?
a long time, like for America to join the war, right?
World War Two, yeah, for sure, because nobody wants to break out into a world war. But what I'm wondering now is because a lot of people, and I'm just looking at this objectively, just like the whole, we knew the financial crisis was going to happen, you know, prior to COVID. Like now that we're in the financial crisis, like, well, yeah, all the economists were saying that, right? But now I'm wondering, like, what is the likelihood of actual World War III?
I think there's a different time from then and now. The world is still too connected with economies.
That's what I'm thinking too.
That's
but
the
I
only
don't
way
know.
that it's like may not get to that point because we rely on so much
need
imports
you,
and
you know?
exports that
Yeah.
it's just you need the other countries.
Yeah, right. No, I totally agree with you. It's like we're so embedded in our business It's like if we do have a world war, how do I build everything in house? I was
Maybe I think that's the
pulling those
reason for
funds.
having the global economy was the point that we wouldn't reach to that level of world wars again.
Maybe. Yeah, interdependence. That
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
like we
Because
relying
if
on
I'm
each
going down,
other. Yeah, if we go to this war, then how are we getting our products from China, and who are we going to be in war
yeah,
with? Like,
for sure, for sure, for sure. And that is my thought process too. That's why I'm like, it seems so intertwined. I just don't know if it can
it
happen.
feels like that because of the current tensions that are there. But we also had that tension last year when Russia went into Ukraine. So
But that hasn't ended though. See
no,
what I'm saying?
I
It's
know
like
that hasn't
you have that.
ended. That hasn't ended, but it hasn't escalated to the point of world war, right? That one.
Yeah.
So, but we thought that at the time too,
Yeah, totally, totally, totally. But
right?
do you know what's also happening um aside from the reason why I bring this up is because like the Israel Palestine thing, sure. The Ukraine Russia thing, sure. But like China's also taking over, and we're just not hearing that media. Like all my family in the Philippines, they're in Asian news, and they're like, "Oh, dude, China's like pulling the boats in. Canada's coming to support." So it's like, okay, you
I
have
think
Russia
that
and
America
Ukraine.
built, or like they have another base in the Philippines, I think it was, or I don't know, somewhere around there
Maybe I'm
for
wrong,
that stuff
but
too.
you,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
but you
yeah.
see what I'm saying?
No, I know.
It's like okay, guys, like there's a lot of tension, and some tensions we're not even seeing yet.
Hmm.
Like, who thought that the Israel Palestine thing was going to happen? You know, like, sure, it happened in the past, but like, oh, damn, right now? Really, right now?
Hmm.
You know, and then like the China thing, you're like, really, right now? And then is it all going to add up into like
It
just a
depends. It
domino effect
depends on.
war?
I feel like a lot of times, if a war is going to happen, then it's the level of desperation of that country,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
totally. It's like it's our
If
last resort.
yeah, it's that's kind of what
Fair.
Germany felt like. That's what the Germany or Hitler they were going through a bad
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
economy thing that they blamed the Jews, right? So like then that triggered the whole war or the all that stuff. But I feel like if China is at a if their economy is doing really really bad, I feel like that's their only way would be to start a war to gain land or gain
Yeah.
resources or other things, right? Like, but that's if they get to that level of desperation.
Yeah, totally. Okay, yeah, totally, totally, totally. Yeah, it's like a frigging cat with its back against the wall. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got nowhere to go. I have to like claw back out.
Yeah.
Um, but what about the actual drafting of people? Do you think that could happen?
Mm.
Like, let's say it breaks out.
Yeah, yeah,
Are we
yeah.
gonna fight a human versus human war, or are we gonna fight a tech war?
That's the thing. I think right now, I think that'd be a huge revolt for any kind of draft. It's not going to work.
I know, right? Especially with like the mentality
If
of like
anything,
Gen
then
Z and like,
it'll be a tech war, robot war. Maybe that's where the money will be spent more towards. Maybe that's what they're doing right now.
yeah, totally. Okay, yeah, fair, fair, fair. Um,
I mean, kind of like what that's kind of what
yeah,
drones are doing, anyways, right? So,
yeah, yeah. No, no, totally, totally, totally. The other thing
like
is,
they
if
didn't
we
do a draft for after 9/11. There wasn't a draft, but people signed up though. A ton of people signed up.
yeah, but it wasn't like, but that was like a war, but this would be a world war. So it's like, oh, we need all hands on
But
deck.
then, yeah, that's what I'm saying. At that time, it was America actually got attacked, where it's like, I don't know how you would start. The only way to start that kind of
Yeah.
war is like what happened in Pearl Harbor,
Right, right, totally.
right?
Yeah, no,
So,
totally, totally, totally. But what do you think about the likelihood of people actually accepting that draft?
that's what I'm saying. That's where it shifts. Would an impact like that change people's minds? I feel like if it's right
Yeah.
now, no. But if there was an
But
attack on American soil, I feel like that could be different.
but okay, okay.
But not a
What do you
draft. I
think
feel like people
about
will sign up.
okay, so no draft. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
no
No,
draft.
no, I'm strictly talking about draft.
Oh no, no,
What
no,
do you
no.
think about okay. What do you think about like why it wouldn't lead to that?
A draft.
I think you yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's social media. I think it's the internet.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
how many
Today
people
in
would
today's time, a draft is not going to work. It's been gone for so long. I don't
but
think
but what about like Ukraine? Remember? Like maybe
Ukraine. I
it's
think they kind of. I don't know if they had something like that, but
all the women and children could leave, but the men had to stay behind so that
yeah.
they could
But I think
defend.
they're changing that to for women to stay.
Oh shoot,
I
really?
think
Damn.
so.
All right. But
But
okay,
theirs is
but could
different,
it
right?
be
I understand that,
yeah.
but people also stayed to fight too, right? So I don't know the exact numbers. Of course, a lot of people
But
left,
but
but yeah.
but could it be like as we become techno okay, it's like this in my mind. As we become more technologically savvy, we become softer as a species. So I think that because Ukraine wasn't as technologically savvy as us, like
Mm-hmm.
the West is like the world stage, and Ukraine was like not really there. And I think because of that, you could still be savage enough to like, we gotta stay,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas like imagine how many people like putting out reels of like, oh, this draft is so dumb. Oh, I don't want to be a part of this. Make love, not violence. You know what I mean? Like just like all these platitudes that would cause other people to also not want to sign up for the draft or like accept the draft.
Right.
Like I really don't think a draft will work. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But is like why wouldn't it work? And I wonder if it's social media. I wonder if it's the internet,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah, I feel like that. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you like if you just see all the what I mean, like with the vaccines, right? People were like, oh, save a life, get a vaccine, whatever, in the beginning of COVID. So like it would be the same thing, but against the war. People would be like, I don't want to hurt my other brothers and sisters. Like we're all one planet. Like all these
And it's not
things,
like
I
yeah, we're not like all before more people were like all of white descent, right? Like in North
yeah.
Americas, right? They were joining the war, World War II and World War I, but like there wasn't. You have a lot more multiculturalism now that it's it's hard to
Yeah. No, it's always
see,
it's like
right?
is this really my country? Before it was like, this is my country, I'm fighting for my country. And that's why I think Ukraine and the Ukrainians, it's like, no, I'm fighting for my home, you know? And because like Jan asked me that too, my cousin, and he said, if the not World War, sorry, if a war breaks out in the Philippines against China, do you think Filipinos will fly back home? Just like, the
Yeah,
Ukrainians
yeah, yeah.
flew back home, some of them to like protect the thing, right? And it's like, okay, maybe, but who would fly back to Canada if there was a war? I feel like Canada and the US, more so Canada than the US, because the US is more of like a melting pot, whereas Canada is more of a mosaic. You could be who you are. I think that Canada would just be like, this isn't even really my country. You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually not really from here. The
Mm-hmm.
immigration, like you said, and I think that's a huge piece of it. Like, who feels real allegiance to Canada?